Is Israel planning to build the third temple? For some, this is the ultimate end times question.
The Temple Mount is sacred to three religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
The Sanhedrin has just appointed a high priest for the temple.
It will be rebuilt speedily in our days.
Third Temple. Update. The Red Heifer has been sacrificed in secret. Something historic may have just happened, and almost no one is talking about it. In the shadows of the world's chaos, far from the cameras and headlines, whispers are growing that the long-prophesied Red Heifer has been sacrificed in secret. If true, this moment could set into motion one of the most anticipated and feared events in biblical prophecy, the rebuilding of the Third Temple in Jerusalem. But why would such a monumental act be hidden? And what does this mean for you right now? For centuries, the Red Heifer prophecy has been wrapped in mystery. In the Old Testament, God commanded that a flawless red heifer, one without blemish, spot, or defect, be sacrificed outside the camp. Its ashes, mixed with water, would purify those who were ceremonially unclean, especially those who had been near death. According to Jewish tradition, this ritual is essential before the temple can be rebuilt and the sacrificial system restored. The problem? A perfect red heifer is nearly impossible to find. In fact, Jewish historians say that only 9 have ever been sacrificed in all of Israel's history. The 10th, they believe, will usher in the Messianic age. Now, after decades of searching and breeding programs, a small herd of pure red heifers was brought to Israel from Texas in 2022. Since then, they have been guarded, inspected, and monitored with almost obsessive care. The stakes are sky high. If a single white hair appears, the animal is disqualified. If it breaks a bone or is worked in any way, it can no longer be used. That's why recent unconfirmed reports have sent shockwaves through prophecy circles. Multiple sources claim that one of these perfect red heifers has already been sacrificed in a ceremony closed to the public, somewhere in Israel, possibly in the last few weeks. If this is true, it would mean the ritual purification process for temple worship has already begun, a quiet but irreversible first step toward rebuilding the Third Temple. Why keep it secret? That's where things get even more intriguing and suspicious. Some speculate that the sacrifice was performed privately to avoid international backlash. After all, the rebuilding of the temple sits at the very center of one of the most volatile political and religious flashpoints on Earth. The Temple Mount is currently home to the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, 2 of the holiest sites in Islam. Any move to re-establish Jewish temple worship there could ignite massive unrest, possibly even war. Others believe secrecy is about prophecy itself. Certain Jewish teachings say the temple must be built under specific conditions, and that not all the steps will be revealed publicly until the time is right. If the leaders overseeing this process believe that keeping the sacrifice quiet will prevent political interference or premature conflict, they may choose silence over spectacle. For Christians who study end-time prophecy, the implications are staggering. Many point to passages like Daniel 9:27, 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4, and Matthew 24:15, which speak of a future abomination of desolation in the holy place, an event that would require the temple to exist again. The book of Revelation describes a coming world leader who will deceive nations, make a covenant with Israel, and ultimately desecrate the temple, declaring himself to be God. If the red heifer has been sacrificed, then the prophetic clock toward those events may have just ticked forward in a major way. Imagine what could unfold next. The ashes of the sacrificed red heifer, according to tradition, would be carefully preserved and guarded. Priests who have been trained in the ancient temple rituals could then undergo purification. Altars could be prepared. Instruments of worship, many of which have already been reconstructed by the Temple Institute in Jerusalem, could be set in place. Within months or even weeks, the site could be ready for sacrifices again, something that hasn't happened in nearly 2,000 years. Yet, this is not just about ancient rituals or distant prophecies. This is about the timeline of human history. If the sacrifice has truly happened, then we are watching prophecy unfold, not as distant theory, but as breaking reality. The pieces are falling into place. The push for peace deals in the Middle East, rising tensions over the Temple Mount, global political instability, and now possibly the most important prophetic sacrifice in 2 millennia. The question is, why now? Some point to the upcoming Jewish feasts, which often align with prophetic movements in Scripture. Others believe global instability is creating the perfect environment for a charismatic leader to emerge with promises of peace. And there's another theory, that this sacrifice was timed according to a hidden prophetic calendar known only to a small circle of rabbis and scholars. Regardless of the reason, one thing is clear. If this report is true, the world just shifted. Of course, skepticism is natural. So far, no official statement has been made by the Temple Institute or the rabbis involved. There are no public photos, no videos, no confirmed eyewitness accounts. Just whispers, leaks, and the careful silence of those who might know more than they're saying. But when you remember how rare this event is, and how fiercely it could be opposed, secrecy starts to make sense. In the days ahead, watch for signs. Increased activity around the Temple Mount, unusual political meetings between Israel and its allies, subtle announcements from religious authorities in Jerusalem. If the ashes have been prepared, it's only a matter of time before the next step is taken, and that step could be public. The Bible warns believers to stay alert. In Luke 21:28, Jesus said, "When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near." If the red heifer sacrifice has truly occurred, then we may be closer to that moment than most people realize. For now, we're left with questions. Has the 10th red heifer truly been sacrificed in our lifetime? Have the ashes already been stored away for the purification of the Temple Mount? Is the third temple, and all the prophetic events tied to it, closer than we've dared to believe? History might remember this month as the quiet moment when the countdown began, or perhaps the truth will remain hidden until the temple itself rises once more in Jerusalem. Either way, the clock is ticking. Stay awake, stay ready, and remember, if the red heifer has been sacrificed, prophecy isn't coming someday, it's already here.